Hello and welcome. Welcome back to Let's Talk NBA with Rick and Jack. My friend, how are you?
I am wonderful.
You're wonderful. Life in New York is treating you good.
Can't complain.
Life with the family is wonderful.
Yes, sir.
You'll be back, on our show on the 10th? Couple more weeks, you'll
So,
be back in the studio with us?
yeah, basically.
Well, we miss you over here, and studio's not the same without you, but I know you needed to get some family time out in New York, and I'm glad to hear you're having a great time of it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, our pleasure. We miss you. That all being said, the NBA Finals are over, right?
Yeah.
Last night was the last game.
Yeah, like you predicted.
I got lucky.
Basically, they would win four straight games, and guess what? Milwaukee won 4 straight games.
Yeah, that was fun, and I talked to a lot of people, and I've sent them last week's show when it was a 2-1 series, and I mentioned that don't be surprised if Milwaukee wins 4 straight. I saw something, just a different mentality in that team. Phoenix had a great year. Let's stop and just give praise to Phoenix for an incredible year. They came from being not a great team last year. They had a very good 10 games in the bubble, and they showed signs of being good. But the acquisition of guys like Chris Paul, it was just a big thing for them. And they had a great year. Let's give them their props. And they were up 2-0 in the series against Milwaukee. They felt very confident. I know that they were feeling confident, and they really had a chance to go up 3-1 in that series when they were up by 7 points with 5 minutes to play in Game 4 to make that a 3-1 series. But that was the point that Milwaukee decided that they were going to fight back. And it's interesting that, and I know you observed this, that all those games were close. Those final 4 games were close, but Milwaukee took them when it was time to take them at the end of the game. And Milwaukee became the better team down the stretch in the last 4 games. Is that what you were observing? How did you observe those finals, and how did it change so quickly when people were saying, oh my God, it's going to be a Phoenix sweep? Milwaukee can't play with Phoenix. They've lost 2 games in a row by 10 points. What happened?
Well, we mentioned it, that the difference was Game 2.
Absolutely.
We saw a different Milwaukee, and it just so happened that they couldn't close Game 2. They did Game 3, and the rest is history. For some reason, the Suns couldn't finish. I've always said with Giannis, Milwaukee has always been dominating when it comes to scoring, to score at will. So Giannis has never been at the end of the game. But this past season, he had a couple overtime games where he had to take the team on the back of his on his shoulder and take them to victory. I've seen that several times throughout the season, and I'm like, okay, now he's prepared to be a closer. Guess what? Those opportunities came here. The Suns, they never had to do it all season long. They just won, blew teams out, and you can see the starters all tired. They were at the end of the game. They were not hitting big shots.
I think you make a great point. I got the impression that as the series went on and so many games, so much pressure, the Phoenix started to get tired. And it was shown at the end of games. They were missing shots. Giannis really did put that team on his back and go. He had, to score 50 points last night and to have 14 rebounds, to have the 5 blocks. The kind of game that he had to close out a championship game, it's one of the best games ever. And that was documented by a lot of the prognosticators and analysts after the game last night. They were like, this quite possibly could be the best final game that we've ever had. And, Jordan's had some great ones, Magic, Kobe. They've had some great final games, but this was an unbelievable effort. And the thing that impressed me most about Giannis is he always talked about team. He talked about family. He talked about doing it together. And the thing that really impressed me, Jack, he went out and learned how to shoot free throws. If he doesn't make 17 out of 19 last night, a guy who had free throw problems last year, if he doesn't go out and work hard to become a better free thrower and to have that kind of game, I mean, to think about where he was when, earlier in the playoffs and teams were making fun of him, and when he was in opposing gyms and playing, they were making fun of him and counting the number 1 through 10 and really in his head. That young man went out last night and made 17 out of 19 free throws. The top players don't do any better than that. So, we've got to give that guy his props that he really led that team and did an incredible job.
Absolutely.
What was your takeaway from the playoffs and from the season? What sticks out in your mind from this last NBA season, number one? And number two, what really stuck out in your head in the playoffs?
Well, when injuries were when playoffs first started, injuries were a big thing. And especially, the team that I like to pick on all the time with the Clippers, them load managing, and then, hey, they had a decent run themselves. But for the most part, like, hey, the teams that were hungry, they won, and here we are crowned. There's only one winner.
Yeah,
somebody has to lose.
Deservedly so. Milwaukee, they had the best record the last 2 years and had playoff disappointments. This year, they were managed to just continue to play hard, and it was quite a surprise that Giannis got healthy so quickly after that serious knee injury, and was able to play all 6 games in this championship and to play him effectively. And he was a great leader. His message is wonderful. I'm very happy for Milwaukee. Congratulations. And again, Phoenix played well. They made a couple of key acquisitions. Jay Crowder was a big help to them. He's a fine ball player. Chris Paul was a great acquisition. Booker grew up being around stars like that. The two great players they brought in. What do you see for Phoenix's future? They're going to get a couple more players and contend again next year, or is it going to be tough with the Lakers and Golden State coming back probably pretty strong?
If Aiton can get better and be more productive on the offensive end consistently, I think they're actually okay. And having a leader like Paul be there again for another year, they might give us a run for our money when it comes to being right there for the championship again. They have the team. It's just now it needs to be developed. Remember, Milwaukee's what, six years into the making in this championship, right?
Well, it's been a while. I mean, Milton and Giannis played together for 8 years until they had a championship. Now those guys know each other pretty well. They stayed together in Milwaukee, haven't left. And Giannis's point, he was very, very, very precise in his comments last night when he said, I was willing to stay with the team instead of go to a mega team. I re-signed here with a mega contract to stay in Milwaukee, probably for the rest of his career. And I decided to stay and fight, as so many of these guys are going to the mega ball club and selling out. And I was like, that one hurt.
Oh, shots fired.
That one hurt. Shots fired. And I loved it because his message is great, and I like what they did in Milwaukee. And again, Phoenix, was just that close, and they had a great year. And I know you were really on that Phoenix wagon all year, and you never got off of it. You stuck with them all year right through to the finals. And when they were up 2-0, it looked like Phoenix was in great shape, and they had a great chance to go up 3-1. But it was a good year for them. Let me ask you a question. Were you disappointed in Chris Paul's championship game? Was he inconsistent to you, or did he do fine, or did he let his ball club down a bit?
No, Chris Paul is an older player where the way he used to play is not the way he is anymore. What comes with Chris Paul at this age is his basketball IQ. They needed somebody else other than Booker, and even Booker wasn't hitting shots like he should have. So you can't just put that all on Chris Paul.
No,
and
you can't.
nobody was able to stop Giannis.
Well,
yeah, you fouled him, you gave him a hard foul, but guess what? He made it up on the free throw. So it's the problem is not necessarily offense on they didn't stop Giannis. That's their biggest issue. They had no answers.
Or Middleton or Holiday. I mean, those three guys played very, very well, and when it counted. The thing that I saw was, I think you made a really great point, Jack. It appeared to me that Phoenix got tired. Ayton was unbelievable game 1 and 2. He was dominating. That guy disappeared after that. I think the game 3 or 4, he had 2 points. And he had games with 18 points, 17 rebounds. he disappeared after game 2, and I really think he got tired. I think Paul got tired. I really think Booker got tired, but they needed a couple more guys. They just didn't have enough around them. They just didn't have enough support. In the end, Milwaukee won it, and deservedly so. Kudos to Milwaukee. I think you would agree with me. We're happy Milwaukee was a champion this year. They deserved it. They've worked hard to become that.
Absolutely, and it's like what bad do you say about a team that stuck with it year in, year out, disappointing, not playing well during the season, and guess what? Throughout the years, they got more mature. And remember, last season they got knocked out the bubble, and it was like they weren't mentally ready for the bubble.
It
but
was
guess
embarrassing.
what? They came around and did this.
Yeah. They've had a great year in the leadership in the playoffs. They were. You got to understand, they were down 2-0 to Brooklyn also, and came back and won that series. So they got down in series, and it just Giannis would not allow them to lose, and I really like that. And his message is a great one, and as he always says, family first. And he's just a good guy and a hard worker, and he supports his family, and that's my kind of player. Who was in the NBA this season? Who was your biggest disappointment? Which team was your biggest disappointment this year?
None. Like it's a team for not the playoffs, but for the regular season.
Yeah.
I would say it would be the Pelicans.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think
I agree with you.
They're way more talented than they are not to make the playoffs.
I agree with you.
So, but the teams that did make the playoffs, barring injury, they did well.
Yeah.
Any team that got swept was because their star player was out, or you have a guy in Dallas that's doing it all by himself with no support.
Very little support.
So I'm not disappointed in any of the teams that actually made it to the playoffs, but the Pelicans for me are my biggest disappointment.
Yeah, and I think that's well founded. They had a lot of good youthful players there. If you look at them compared to Atlanta makes that great playoff run. It gets into the championship of the Eastern Conference. Played very, very well. You look at a team like New Orleans, who had more talent than they did, and they just never got there. And again, I have said this for years. I believe the Van Gundys are very poor coaches. That includes Jeff and Stan. Stan lasted 1 year? Come on. That team was out of control. There was no continuity there. There was no when we talk about culture, we talk culture a lot. There was no culture with that team. They were just out there shooting the ball, just playing random basketball. Very disappointing year in New Orleans. And there were some teams who really stepped up this year. Who did you like that made a big push that maybe didn't make the playoffs or was in just for a short playoff run? Which team really impressed you this year in that's on the move besides Phoenix?
Memphis with Ja Morant.
Isn't that funny? I was going to say the same thing. Boy, great minds think alike. I felt the same way. Memphis with Ja Morant. So
for them, it's like, can the season start tomorrow? Because I want to know what he's going to do, because I think he's going to light the league up on fire next season.
Yeah.
Can the season start tomorrow?
What did he tell the Olympic team when they came calling after they said he wasn't going to be on the team? And what happened? Tell me that story again. You remember the story you told me? When the Olympic committee, when Bradley Beal wasn't going to be able to play, they called up Morant and said, hey, come on and play with us.
He said, hey, you weren't calling me before. Don't call me now.
Yeah, I wasn't good enough then. I'm not good enough now. So I love that kid. I was, during this NBA season, I touted him a lot. And I think you started watching him more and more as the season went on. But I think you realize that kid really is an incredible star in the making.
And he's very special. He's a special player.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun doing this. We were talking about this earlier in our production meeting. We literally started with week 1 with NBA basketball, and we've gone through the whole season. It's gone so fast. We have a great passion for NBA, and we like to think that we're very knowledgeable about it. We weren't wrong about many things this season. That's what's really interesting. In the end, we felt Milwaukee was going to be in that championship, and in the end, on last week's show. We said Milwaukee was going to win it, and Milwaukee was going to win 4 straight. I don't know how you get any more direct than that, or I don't know how you get any more knowledgeable than that. But that's what I like about this show, and we appreciate you fans watching it and following us. But we clearly said Milwaukee was going to win 4 straight games in this season. If you bet those 4 games, you won a lot of money, because that's what I did. And I was on the Milwaukee wagon after, as Jack said, Game 2. I saw Game 2, and Phoenix went 23s. They set a playoff record, 23 pointers in Game 2, and they still only beat Milwaukee by 10. And I said, Milwaukee really played good here. If there wasn't for these 23 pointers, which Phoenix will never even come close to in the rest of the series, which they did not. Phoenix didn't come close to 20, not even close. That Milwaukee was the better team, and it was proved out. And it just, I want to let all you fans know, we take a lot of pride in this, Jack and I. I mean, we get together and produce these shows and talk about them long before we come on here, and we feel pretty good about what we accomplished this year, and the type of information we gave out, and the type of information that you received as fans. So my point here is we're going to be going into NFL. This is our last NBA show. Feels kind of ironic that it went that quick, but it was a lot of fun. Jack and I love NBA. We had a lot of heated conversations and differences about it, but we also agreed on a lot of things. So, Jack, I want to thank you for putting together a great season of NBA with me, and we were able to really, if you go back and watch every single show, you'll see that the level of information and knowledge and the ability to understand was really good. So thank you for your input this NBA season.
No, thank you, sir.
It's been a lot of fun, hasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And you see like a perfect example earlier where John Moran was not on my radar until you kept on telling me, you got to watch this. You got to watch this kid. You got to watch this kid. And I started watching this kid, and I more impressed more and more every time I watch him. I saw him, and I can't wait to see what he has for us next season.
Yeah, we saw a lot of kids grow up this season. I mean, we really saw Young in Atlanta really grow up. That Trae Young, that kid had a great season. It was funny to watch him progress, his progression. He was all about shooting, and then as the season went on, he became a facilitator, much more of a facilitator. And he was really actually very good in the playoffs until he got hurt. Kids like that really grew up. It's been fun to watch the youth in the NBA come to the top. It really has, and I think next year will be great. The NBA draft is coming up. Hopefully, some of these teams will get some help. Who do you see ready to make a move next year? Is it going to be Phoenix coming back to win it, or are they just going to have a terrible time with the beasts in the West? Because you do know, with health, Golden State will be back next year.
They will be, but the West has always been loaded when it comes to talent. Remember, we have Denver. That's their star players coming back.
Yeah.
Same thing with in Utah. Mitchell was not 100% for the playoffs. Then the Joker is probably going to get some help, and then Dallas got to make some moves. So the West is, and I didn't even mention the Lakers yet.
Yeah.
The West is going to be the best. The West is going to be hard to get out of next season.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Clipperland, because they ended up having a very, very good season. I don't believe I just didn't get a good feel from Kawhi Leonard there. I believe he took the player option, and he is going to become a free agent. He did not accept their option. He took his option to say I can opt out here. And in my personal opinion, I do not believe Kawhi Leonard will be back with the Clippers next year. He might be with the Lakers. You think he's going to be back with the Clippers?
I don't think so. And
the
I don't
groove
want
was
him
not
with the
good there in
Lakers.
the end. Him sitting up in the box when the team's playing. Him not going on the road with team. I just never felt that he felt accepted there, or he had some problem with somebody in the management there. I didn't know what it is, but I never had that warm feeling about Leonard's presence with the Clippers. Did you have the same feeling?
No, I did not. For me, Leonard was never a player that made everyone else better around him. He played his game, and the team has to play accordingly. He never rallied his team, let the young guys know their mistake and help them improve their basketball IQ. Yes, he was good. He was gonna get his, and he was never a team guy. It was it was always me, and me personally, unless I have two other star players on my team, I wouldn't want him on my team. I would want him to be a third guy. I wouldn't want him to be a second guy. And his injuries, anytime he's ever been injured on a team, he ended up leaving.
Yeah,
remember, he did that with San Antonio because he didn't trust their doctors.
Right.
And then he came out again and said the same thing about the Clippers. He's gone.
I agree with you. I don't think he'll be back. What's going on in Portland? I keep hearing rumblings that Dame Lillard is not happy, that Portland is not committed to winning. He is not that happy about the new coach situation there. Is Dame Lillard going to get traded, or is he going to be in Portland this upcoming season?
Yeah, he's going to get traded. The last person I've ever seen that asked for a trade and went into a decent situation was actually James Harden. Every other player that's requested a trade end up gutting the team. So their nucleus is gone, and they only have the star player, i.e., you have a Carmelo Anthony did that. Same thing with Anthony Davis. Those core players got shipped away, so then the team is going to be trash. So whatever, he's better. If you're going to, why not let your contract end? Don't sign long-term contracts.
Yeah, exactly.
So you opt out. That's simple.
He's got a long-term contract there. I can't help but think they're going to make him happy and pick up some kids in the NBA and make some trades there. You know, I've always been, this kid McCollum, when you talk about Leonard, he just plays this game. I always feel about McCollum that way in Portland. I feel like he's a good player, but he never melds right with the team. And there's something there with him that I don't really like his presence in Portland.
Well, when he's injured like that, then when you're not there to play with the team, things like that will happen where you're just not. There's no unit cohesion.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. There's some teams that are very close. Like if Denver can pick up a couple decent ball players and one big star. If Utah needs a little help, they really need to help Donovan Mitchell out a little more. If they can get some help there. Portland needs a little bit of help. Dallas a little bit of help. These are contenders. These are contenders if they get some help. And then in Lakerland, who are they keeping? Who's going? Who's coming? There? I hear they're trying to move Kuzma again, but not getting much love for him. How long the Lakers going to stay with Kuzma? Every year he ends up not being a great player. He ends up having an average year. Quit making him your number 3 star. He's not your number 3 star. And by the way, Drummond was a total disappointment this year for the Lakers. Those guys, those two guys are my biggest disappointments. Drummond and Kuzma. Well, what are they doing? What are the Lakers doing? Get rid of both of them and bring some talent in to surround. LeBron's getting older, and it showed this year. LeBron doesn't have much left. Will the Lakers?
LeBron should be your number 3 guy right now, where all he's doing is improving everybody else's basketball IQ, and be a facilitator and his minutes should be going down. He shouldn't be playing 35 plus minutes a game like he did. Because now he's prone to injury, and then you got all that money sitting on the bench in street clothes. And
LeBron's thing was all these other players, load management, and LeBron was playing every night. And I remember this early in the season, he was kind of bragging about it, that he had played every game and hadn't missed any games. And all of a sudden the injuries came, and he was out for such a long time. And he was not the same player when he came back. He was never fully healthy. We know Anthony Davis was never fully healthy, but I can't help but think that the Lakers aren't going to come back this year in contend for the title. I really don't think they will. I mean, do you feel differently about that?
Yeah, they will. They'll make some changes. They'll get a semi-decent third guy. I think Kuzma's out. Yeah, they need somebody else, and I think they'll do it.
Are they going to keep Drummond?
Just going to sit on the sideline and watch everyone else in the West get better while his team is not in contention, because then it's going to come back on him. Yeah, it's Lakerland, so people their memories are short. They don't care about the championship they won
Yeah,
6 or 2
absolutely.
seasons ago. No, what have you done for me lately?
Is Drummond back with them? Is he going to be back? I mean,
No,
he was a
he was
disappointment.
a disappointment.
Pardon?
He was a disappointment.
Yeah. Oh, total disappointment. And if I'm not mistaken, he's a free agent, right?
I believe so,
Yeah.
including Schroeder. I don't think
Schroeder's
they
a free
finalized
agent.
the deal with Schroeder.
Schroeder's going to draw big money. He had a good year until he started with the pandemic baloney. Going on protocol for 2 times. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, his selfish run twice. Yeah,
Yeah, and it hurt the ball club. So I don't think he's going to be back. Of course, Rondo, he won't be back. Caruso, he's a free agent. He might get some money someplace. So I think there's a lot of changes going on with the Lakers. You're going to have your 2 core guys back, but let's see what kind of – they need to get a couple more players that they can count on. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, very spotty player. So, I mean, the Lakers were a funny little team, and I think that they're going to have to get a lot of help to be contenders with that tough West. In the East, it's basically going to be the top 3, and maybe Atlanta will get in there. New York might improve. Memphis may improve. So I think we're going to have more than 3 really good teams in the East next year. I think it's going to be 6 or 7 really good teams in the East that made some strides this year that are going to continue to make strides and saw what winning's like. They like the flavor of winning. So don't you agree that we're going to have a much tougher East next year?
I don't necessarily think of it as being tougher. I think with the East, it's always been the top 4 teams. But even last season, it was generally 3.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't even say, like, despite me loving New York or, say Atlanta was okay, they were not top teams throughout the season.
Yeah. Well, they had some pretty good. Atlanta had a good playoff run. Memphis played pretty well in the playoffs. I mean, they didn't have enough. Dallas played pretty well in the playoffs. Again, didn't have enough. I think that these teams are going to tool up in the offseason. It's going to be a very, very interesting offseason because I believe some teams are really going to become contenders, and the NBA is going to be much better next year. It's been a really great season. Again, I want to thank you, Jack, for being on the show, this NBA show for the last season of basketball. We look forward to next year. We'll talk about basketball occasionally on our sports talk show, but at this point, starting next week, we're going to pick up NFL and start talking about some of the things that are going on there. There's a lot of controversy in the NFL right now. We'll talk about it next week. But we want to thank you all for being viewers and fans of this NBA show all season. This is our last show. It's been a lot of fun, and the predictions have been kind of accurate. So we're proud of that. We thank you for watching. We look forward to having you watch our NFL show and, of course, our weekly sports show. Jack, thanks for being part of this team here. And anything in conclusion for you?
No, just congratulations to Milwaukee on their championship, and I want to thank all the viewers for tuning in every week, and hey,
Absolutely.
You guys keep tuning in, and we keep doing this. So hey, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Rick.
My
thank
pleasure.
you, John Stiles, our producer extraordinaire.
Mr. John Stiles, who produces these shows. Thank you, Jack, for bringing that up. We would be remiss if we forget Mr. John Stiles because he produced all of these NBA shows, and they've been a lot of fun, and we'll get back to it in October at some point. I know that NBA starts picking up again about that time, so we'll see what happens in the draft. And as I said, we'll talk about NBA occasionally on our sports show now, but our primary show, Let's Talk NFL, is coming up next week, and we'll get into that, and we'll flow right into the season and have a lot of great information and predictions for you. But thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of our NBA show. Thank you for watching our Let's Talk Sports show on a continual basis. We hope you have a good NFL season ahead. We're looking forward to talking. And again, thanks for watching NBA. God bless, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.